So hello and welcome back to the third and final catch-up episode. So if you haven't already seen the previous two, I'll put a link in the description, and you'll get a little thing come up here as well. But essentially I've been well behind on my opening videos, and this is the final one. This is the delivery that I got last week with the Premium War Gear Set 2. So let's get cracking. Now, I've been really looking forward to these. I haven't looked through any of them yet. I've just taken them out the packaging. So yeah, I will be looking through these with fresh eyes, just like you will. So, also, I noticed that I did waffle a little bit in the previous videos. So I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet and not spoil too much stuff as well. So, without further ado, let's get cracking with issue 27. Now, this issue, you get the Death Guard Rhino, history of the Death Guard, and the Battle of Corvan 2 continues. So, in this sprue right here, you get everything you need to make a Rhino. As you can see, it is the full kit. So you got all the panels, the tracks, everything, all the hatches, and as you see here, got a little Aquila sign. So that instantly tells me that this is the basic sprue. This is essentially what you'd buy in the shop if you were going for just the regular one. And then in issue 28, you get all the additional bits that you can use to customize it into the Death Guard. So, but it's really good for anyone who wants a Rhino. So if you get a couple of issue 27s, it will be hard because, like in the UK, if you guys are starting later, a lot of people anticipate this issue and they bought up loads of copies. So you might find it a bit difficult to get additional copies if you're outside of subscription. So make sure that you do subscribe. So yeah, that's cool. So I can't wait to get that up and running. I already got one, which I have as a Razorback, so that's like that but with big gun on the back. So I'm not fussed about making one for the Death Guard. So I digress. Let's get cracking with this issue. So get a little bit from the editor as always, and then we crack on with the Space Marines War Machines Rhino Transport. The Rhino is the workhorse of the Space Marine chapters. Rugged, reliable and adaptable, it has served the Adeptus Astartes, as well as several of the Imperium's other military forces, for over 10,000 years. Throughout this long history, it has excelled in its role as the battlefield troop transport. Alright, so we got a little bit about what it does and its origins, and then we've got some stats on here as well. So armor rating 5, so it's not very beefy, it's just quite average thing. Speed 6, so you know, it's got some maneuverability. Firepower 3, doesn't have much. It's class all-terrain transport, also employed by Adeptus Sororitas, classified and classified. So this would probably be what's it, the Grey Knights and the Death Watch, or Adeptus Custodes, or you know, the Adeptus Custard Creams as they're known as. So you can carry up to 10 troops. It's 1 Space Marine crew. Armaments, a Storm Bolter. You can have missile launchers as well, and additional Storm Bolters. Smoke grenade launchers for thermic combustor reactors. That's its engines, so these exhaust ports here come from it. And note, cannot transport Primaris Space Marines. Very handy considering the majority of the new range is Primaris. So that's a little something. I would have thought you could take maybe half the number, but that's how they want to do it. Luckily though, the Death Guard don't count as Primaris, so we're all good. Markings and heraldry. So I've got a little bit on that for the vehicles. So you have your battle line, close support, fire support, veteran command, blah blah blah. It's exactly the same as squad's markings, it's just bigger because it's on the vehicle. Your chapter badge, your company markings, and campaign badges as well. So it's all exactly the same as the squads that we looked at previously. You also have a bit on how versatile the chassis of the Rhino is. So you have different variations that do different jobs, and they're customized to, you know, accomplish that. So you've got a Vindicator, it's got a big siege gun on the front and a bulldozer front. A Whirlwind, so it's got a massive rocket launcher on the back. A Stalker, that's got anti-aircraft gun on it, and it also has these posts that go into the ground, a bit like one of those you know, those lorries that pick up large loads off the back. They always put down those steady rods to hold them fast. The Hunter, so that's just a bigger missile, and then the Predator at the bottom, which you'll see a lot on the table. A big gun on top, guns on the side, and you've got variations of these as well. And you got a little bit about standard template constructs, which are largely fought over, and I believe we've gone through that in a previous episode. Rhino transports for the Death Guard. So you got a bit more on how the Death Guard use theirs. Warbands and Victoriums. So it's essentially they mostly use mass troops, but they don't tend to use transport to get them anywhere. So there are a couple of warbands and Victoriums that still utilize the Rhinos for their tactics. In the previous issue we had something similar to this, but it was for the Imperium, and it's like a nice little timeline here for the Death Guard. So I won't spoil any of that either, but there's a lot of good reading in there. Yeah, cool. Angelic Vengeance. Heretic forces launched a rebellion on the mud-covered world of Luminous. The Dark Angel's third company was sent to put down the rebellion and ensure that the traitors and heretics were completely eliminated. Well, they must have shot themselves. That's an in-joke, if anyone gets that. Thumbs up and a lol in the comments, please. So, a nice little battle. I do like these little stories because, you know, it makes for great toilet reading. And if you haven't seen my previous videos where I've referred to reading as toilet reading, it's essentially quick bits of read that you can enjoy while you're on the toilet, away from the kids. You're welcome. Alright, so putting together your Rhino, you do have an option where if you don't glue down the back door, you can paint the inside before you put the top on. So that's if you want to go that far into detail. And of course this is the additional sprue that you get in the next issue, along with the additional weaponry as well. So there you go, and then all your spiky bits and stuff. There's no paint section because that will be in the next issue, just like with the Redemptor Dreadnought. Blockade. So mission 11, the Ultramarines assault on Barrakias is well underway. The Space Marines are already in control of 2 northern entrances to the city. They are now attempting to blockade the final route in. The Death Guard must stop the Ultramarines from sealing off the city to ground forces. So another great little bit of narrative here, and that's a beautiful picture right there. And then we've got a bit more narrative, and then we've got the actual deployment and everything here. So that's pretty cool. So Space Marines are down here, Death Guard are coming in on the sides, using a lot bigger forces as well now, which is great. And the central road is the Space Marine deployment zone. The Death Guard player does not deploy, instead their forces move onto the map in the first turn. They can move on from both edges. The objectives are the tank traps at either end of the road. So you're protecting the tank traps to stop the Death Guard getting the tanks in. On to the next one. Continuing on the mass opening, we go on to issue 28. So, as I said before, this is where you get all the extras to make it look entirely nurgly. But if you are collecting other Space Marines from the Chaos faction, you can go with something else if you like. And they give you the options to do that as well. So as you can see, you have the other three Chaos Gods, so that's Slanesh, Zinch and Khorne, and then of course these represent Chaos Undivided, but that's the one you need, the Noggle one. You also have a part for a combi weapon, so that looks like a melter, and you can attach it to the side of the bolter, rather than having a combi bolter, so that's cool. And you got bits so you can like do someone poking the head out with the gun. You got the missile launcher, and then of course you got other bits and pieces like a loudspeaker, which you'd use if you're collecting what they called Emperor's Children, or followers of Slanesh, because they have noise weapons. And then you got flashlight, variation heads as well. It's all very cool, the spiky bits as well, it's really good. So, more fun for later. Okay, so on the issue, complete your Rhino, learn about Mortarion, and add transports to your games. Let's have a look here. So, the usual introduction by the editor, and then we go into Space Marine War Machines 4 Predator Battle Tank. So this is a continuation from the previous issue, where they went into the roles of the Rhinos. Predator tanks are the most heavily armed and armoured vehicles based on the Rhino STC chassis. With reinforced front armour and a number of weapon options, Predator tanks are versatile vehicles that act as the main battle tanks of the Adeptus Astartes. So, a little bit on them there, and then of course we got our information. So, armour rating 7, that's higher. Speed 6 is the same, but firepower 7, so it's a lot higher in those regards to the regular Rhino, which you would expect. Crew is 2 Space Marines. Armaments, they can have las cannon or Predator autocannon. They also can have heavy bolter sponsons, las cannon sponsons, so weapons on the side, pintle mounted storm bolter and hunter killer missile, so you could arm it up to the teeth. Engines, 4 thermatic combustor reactors, so the same. Weight 44 tons. Equipment, smoke launchers. World of origin, Mars. Known patterns 1 to 12. And then we've got a little bit more. So the variations in the Predator. So you have the Annihilator, so it's all las cannons. And then of course you have the Destructor, so you've got the autocannon up there, and then heavy bolters on the side. Cool, hope that's focusing okay. And then we have the Predator Annihilator, the inner workings and stuff like that, so it's a nice little bit to sort of really ingest the narrative of it, and get a little feel for what effort and thought has been put into the design of these tanks. Predator battle tank. So we got a bit on the Death Guard and how they use these Predator battle tanks. So the Death Guard may not treat their Predator battle tanks with the same respect as their Space Marine enemies, but they too see the value of this reliable and deadly vehicle. Cool, so we've got a bit on there. Second Plague Company favour mechanized warfare and appreciate the value of armoured assaults far more than any other Death Guard Plague companies. They are famous for building entire strategies around fast armoured spearheads, line breaker assaults, and heavy flank attacks intended to crush the enemy beneath rumbling, rusted covered armoured treads. Groovy. And then you got their variations here as well, so a nice little read on there. Now moving on to our next battle. Okay, so our battle in this issue is the Death on Damnos. So the frozen ice world of Damnos held a chilling secret beneath its surface for thousands of years. Without warning, an entire army of Necron awoke, emerging from below to wage war on unsuspecting human settlers. Only the intervention of the Space Marines could stem the tide. So this is going to be a straight up Space Marine versus Necron tale. So again, no spoilers, but just having a quick look over it, looks like a nice little mini story there. Alright, so Death Guard Champions, Mortarion, a birth of a Primarch. Mortarion's earliest years are shrouded in mystery and myth. In the Imperium, knowledge of Mortarion and his homeworld is forbidden to all but the highest officials. Aside from the Primarch of the Death Guard and the Emperor of Mankind, it is doubtful that any still live who know the story of his origin on the poisonous world of Barbarous. There's Barbarous, atmosphere is toxic clouds, terrain is mountain ranges and wide valleys, inhabitants, alien warlords and human settlers. So, again, not going to do any spoilers, but it looks like we got a little bit of his history there. So, again, that looks like a nice little read there. But essentially I think it will cover how he went missing, what happened to him while he grew up on that planet, and why he became what he is. So the Death Guard. On Barbarous, Mortarion's own personal retinue came to be known as the Death Guard. When he assumed command of the 14th Legion, Dusk Raiders, he immediately renamed them in honor of his barbarian warriors. Well, there you go, there's a bit more history. Alright, now we've got our painting section, so we get to use all of our paints. I think there's one that's missing there, is there? You're missing your grey, but I'm sure you could use grey if you wanted to. So there we go. Making it look as cool as possible with the limited palette that you have. And then of course you've got some more details to paint as well. And yeah, it doesn't look too bad like that. And of course you can feel free to style it as much as you like. And then we get on to our tutorial. So this is about transports and how to use them. So the capacity, embarking, disembarking, and then there's a bit on tank traps as well, and transport rules, which can be found on your the rules sheet, the 8-page rule sheet that you got in a previous issue. And then of course we've got a Chaos Rhino data sheet as well, and as you can see, the movement and ballistic skill and attacks are starred, which means that depending on how many how much damage it's suffered will determine on the stat that is left on it. Then we have mission 12. So the mission briefing is mechanized warfare. So again, a nice little narrative start to the scenario. And then armored assault. The Death Guard have weathered the storm of the Space Marine attacks, and now it is time to counter. They seek to break through the enemy lines with Rhino transports and Mephitic Blight Haulers. The Death Guard attack is backed by plenty of armor this time. Can the Space Marines hold the line? Dum dum dum. So of course, Death Guard get Blight Hauler, 12 Poxwalkers, a Rhino, 5 Plague Marines, and the Space Marines have their 5 Intercessors, 2 Hell Blasters, a Redemptor Dreadnought, and a Primaris Librarian. And you're working on victory points again, so 1 for eliminating an enemy unit, that's for the Space Marine, and at the end of the battle, the Death Guard player gains 2 victory points for each unit that ends up in the Space Marine deployment zone at the end of the game, and it's 5 rounds. And then you have your specific stops there, and of course your vehicles come in on here. So again, I've continued to be surprised and impressed with these missions, because every single one of them has been different and varied, and you get to use your models in different various ways. So I can't wait to cover these in a future episode. Right, enough waffling. Let's get on to the next one. So, issue 29. Now, in this issue, we get 4 models, and these are your Hellblaster Sergeant, the Sergeant for the Inceptor, Intercessors, and of course your Captain in Gravis armor. So, as always, very detailed sprues, chock full of little bits and pieces that you can paint up and that. And again, it is a Dark Imperium sprue, but you know, doesn't stop it from being good quality. And there's the bases, so put that to one side. So in this issue, Space Marine Captains, history of the Space Marines and new rules for your games. Alright, so again, your little intro, and then we dive right into Space Marine heroes, Space Marine Captains. All Space Marines are expert warriors, but only a select few combine this martial skill with a superhuman grasp of strategy and tactics. Only those that possess this combination of skills achieve the rank of Captain, for they are responsible for leading an entire Space Marine company to war. Right, so designation: Captain, battlefield role, Commander and melee combatant, Gravis war gear, Boltstorm Gauntlet, Power Sword and Iron Halo, very effective war gear. And specialisms: leadership, warfare. So these are going to be the leaders of your company. So for every 100 troops, you'll have one of these chaps bossing them around. And I like this bit of art here. This is from a game called Space Marine, and if you haven't played it, you should play it. It is really good, and it still holds up. It really does. So that's a recommendation. So okay, we've got the shoulder pads, so they have a little extra bit of iconography on them. So it says here, whilst they still bear their chapter symbol on the left shoulder pad, Space Marine Captains often wear their own personal heraldry on the right shoulder pad. This heraldry may relate to their deeds, a title, or a hint at their lineage. Amongst the Ultramarines, this personal heraldry almost always includes the colour of the company they lead. So very interesting bits there. Arms and armour, honorific titles. So Yeah, so little bits and pieces there. So again, no spoilers, just a breeze through. A Brotherhood of War. This is a great bit of artwork, and it was actually from one of the Horus Heresy novels. So that I just love the Horus Heresy artwork. It's really great, and if you ever get a chance to check out that series, you won't regret it. So, a Brotherhood at War. So this is going to be about how they've been fighting their long war against the traitors, and yeah, that's basically it really. So it's a bit more history essentially. So we had a bit of history in 2 of the previous issues, one for the Imperium and one for the Death Guard, and now we've gone back to the Imperium as well. So that's cool. Alright, Ultramarine Second Company. So this is the colour scheme that you've been painting so far. It's that of the Second Company. So gold trim on their shoulders, and this essentially just lays out what you'd expect to see in the Second Company. Of course, there's a little bit of history under them as well, but it shows you all the weapon loadouts as well, and how many troops are in each of the units. So that's pretty cool. You'll notice that they don't actually have a Redemptor Dreadnought, but they do have 2 different variants of the classic Dreadnought, and they have plenty of regular Adeptus Astartes there, so they're not all Primaris. Champions Collide. So this is another battle story. During the Plague Wars, Captain Acarion led the Ultramarine Second Company against many foes. So it's going to be a short story on them against the Death Guard. Sweet. So we get a bit more narrative on the chap that we are painting up. Excellent. Right, 40k Factions 2.1.4. That's right, 2.1.4. Plague Bearers, Demons of Nurgle. So these are your regular foot soldiers for the Demons of Nurgle. Fast in number and quite tough, but yeah, let's see. Pestilent and bloated. Plague Bearers are the disease-riddled foot soldiers of Nurgle. They march in massed ranks, overwhelming the enemy with sheer numbers. So it's got a brief description on them and what their purpose is, and yeah, they just go around basically counting all the plagues and poxes and stuff, as well as spreading them. So very nice. There's a bit on their relationship with the Death Guard, and yeah, that's a very nice bit of reading. And there we go on to building our Space Marine officers. Pretty cool. And then of course you've got painting them up as well, using all the colours that you got so far. They look pretty decent at the end of it. So it's still very basic. You're still using essentially base paints. It's going to be a much later date when you start using the layer paints and other shades and stuff. So we'll get to that eventually. This is only issue 29, so we've got plenty of time. Acheron arrives. So this is mission 13, and it is going to be a little bit of a narrative description there of what he's doing and what his role in this conflict is going to be. And then of course it's gonna lay out a nice little head-to-head scenario here. So you got Lord Felvius, the Tainted Cohort, Val Blightspawn, 2 units of 3 Plague Marines and 12 Poxwalkers versus 2 units of 3 Intercessors, 3 Hellblasters, 2 Inceptors, Lieutenant Calcius and Captain Acheron. You got your deployment rules here, and you also have victory points. So Death Guard gave 3 victory points for killing a Charon. The 3 victory points for the Space Marines for eliminating Orpheus, and then you have 1 point for eliminating enemy unit in the last 5 rounds. So Lord Orpheus Death Guard forces have launched an assault on the Space Marines forward operating base. Killing Captain Acheron will be key to this battle. If he should fall, the Death Guard will win the day, and possibly the Corps Von 2. You got your data sheet for the Captain in Gravis armor, so you're looking pretty tough there. Look at this, he's a bit slower, movement 5, but 2+ on weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength 4, toughness 5, 6 wounds, 5 attacks, leadership 10, tough as nails. And then of course he's got his Boltstorm Gauntlet with his 3 pistol shots, and then Boltstorm Gauntlet in the melee, so that's 2 times his strength, so it counts as strength 8 minus 3 AP, does D3 damage, so that's nasty. You got 5 attacks, so you could do potentially 15 damage. And then it says when attacking with this weapon you must subtract 1 from the hit roll, but considering your weapon skill 2, it's not too bad. And you got your master crafted power sword, so it's your own strength, but it's minus 3 AP and does 2 damage straight out the bag. Nice. And then he has his Iron Halo, so that gives him 4+ invulnerable save. So he is hard as nails. And that concludes that issue. So this is our final issue, issue 30 in our mass opening of issues. And to start with, let's just have a look at this bit of terrain that we receive. So it's quite weighty as well. I would suggest just snapping it in half like that, because you know it's easier to manage. But yeah, it is nicely detailed, not too much detail, just the right amount, so you got something interesting to look at and paint. And then like you got a little hatch as well, so you can use that as an objective marker. That's pretty cool. I like that, and the fact that it's weighty means it's not going to just fall over too easily, so yeah, it's good quality. So that's the first half of a set, and of course there's the picture to show it. So this issue we learn about Primarchs. We also have Heralds of Nurgle and new terrain rules. So let's get cracking. So the intro again, and then we get into this bit. So this is another piece of art from the Horus Heresy series, and it was actually from a book with like an omnibus of mini stories involving some of the Primarchs, and it was a really good read. So the Primarchs were superhuman beings created by the Emperor to lead his armies to war. Their martial skills were matched only by their mental fortitude. Each of them had powers and abilities nearing those of the Emperor. They strode across the battlefields of the Great Crusade like gods. In the 41st millennium, there is only one known loyalist Primarch in the Imperium, Rebrute Guilliman. So you get a brief history on them and what happened between them and their rivalries and stuff. For example, Leon L. Johnson and the Night Haunter, they had a massive bust up. Horace Lupercal and Lehman Russ dueling, and Fulgrim versus Ferrus Manus, which ends quite badly for Ferrus Manus, and yeah, so that was that. Oh, here's another great little bit of artwork with Angron there, where he's twisted as a he sort of turned into a greater demon of Khorne, so he kind of looks a bit like a Bloodthirst there. And of course here you have Fulgrim, and he also went into Greater Demon mode, so he's got multiple arms and wings, and he turned into sort of snake thing, so lovely. We'll move on from there. Chapter planets. Now this is a very nice map as well. So if you ever need inspiration for your chapters, if you're painting up different schemes or whatever, just have a look around, get a sort of a sense of the names and stuff. If you want to make your own chapter as well, that's really good for some, you know, more inspiration there as well, and also so you don't end up with the same names as existing stuff. So there you go. And then of course you got your home worlds of some of the chapters as well. It's really cool. Okay, Heralds of Nurgle. So in the Garden of Nurgle, it is the great honour to serve amongst the foot soldiers of the God of Decay, but there are some demons who are destined for far greater things. Those that prove to be powerful, capable and resistant to the foulest of diseases are granted even more power by Grandfather Nurgle. So this is going to be like your characters, and you know, the heralds are sort of ones that just stand out a little bit, and they're quite good on the battlefield really. You've got Poxbringers, mortals who resist the ravages of Nurgle's rot for a long time transform into unusually tough plague bearers, resulting in larger, more resilient individuals. These warriors are blessed indeed, for they will rise to the rank of herald as Poxbringers. So again, more fluff. And you got a bit on Nurgle's favour, so always watchful of his minions. Nurgle himself selects the most accomplished Poxbringers and rewards them with special tasks. One such individual is Wretch Gablar, who is tasked with studying the effects of Nurgle's plagues on mortal specimens. Nice. City of the Dead. Okay, so on the Ecclesiarchy world Sendria, a small group of Imperial Fists were tasked with holding the last standing building in the capital city of Vandheim, the vast Cathedral of Martyred Souls. Location: Vandheim, Sendria. Forces: World Eaters, Heretic Astartes versus Imperial Fist Space Marines. World Eater forces consisted of Khorne Berserkers and Demons of Khorne, and the Imperial Fist forces had Intercessors and a Primaris Chaplain. Cool, so a nice little story there as well. So again, no spoilers. The World Eaters are Chaos Space Marines who worship the god of slaughter, Khorne. They want nothing more to then spill blood and collect the skulls of their enemies. Lovely. Right, Rise of Ruins. That's the name of the terrain set, and this shows you just how to prepare them. It's very quick and easy. There's no tough construction whatsoever. You've got two bits that slot together. You don't even need to glue it. And if you want variants as well, you can just always slot them out, and you got a little extra bit of terrain. So there's that. There we go. Base coating them Abaddon black. That's interesting. And then dry brushing. So going for a very dark theme here. Kind of like what you did with the containers. So cool. All right. And then we got our rules for terrain. So this is going over sort of the areas on the map as well, and so you got your ruined area cover, you got moving through ruins, and then of course the different types of cover you get as well, and how you would decide if you get it or not. And then rules: playing 2 Barachias campaign map. The battle for Barachias is gathering pace, and control of the city is split between the Ultramarines and the Death Guard. Presented here are some campaign rules to add to your games. Cool. So you got alright, so you got all your rules on how to do a campaign, and then of course you've got additional rules here like scorched earth tactics, marksman, empowered by entropy. Alright, cool. And then of course you got a fresh map here as well, so you can mark off the areas that have been won by each force. So it's really really starting to encourage you to play with someone, and find a friend, a family member, whoever. I mean, if you are good enough at playing chess against yourself, hey, you could play this as well. Right, mission 14 briefing, urban carnage. So again, a bit of narrative for this scenario, and the scenario is called escalation. So with control of Barakai split between the Ultramarines in the north and the Death Guard in the south, the central area of the city has become the focus of the battle. Death Guard, encouraged by recent successes, launch a major strike, hoping to gain ground before the Ultramarines can act. Groovy. So we have 5 Plague Marines, a Chaos Rhino, Technical Cohort, Foul Blightspawn, Biologist, Putrefier, and then 5 Intercessors, 3 Hellblasters, 5 Reavers, Primaris Librarian, and Redemptor Dreadnoughts. And then we have our deployment rules and victory points. So each enemy unit destroyed is a victory point. The first player to eliminate an enemy unit gains 1 victory point, so first blood. Each objective marker is worth 3 points to the player who with the most models within 3 inches of it at the end of the game, and it lasts 5 battle rounds. Right, cool. So with all that done, what are we expecting? Well, in issue 31 we'll have the origins of Rebut de Guilliman, Plague Legions of Nurgle, and painting with Celestial Grey, which is this colour here. It's a sort of slightly bluish grey. And then of course we get a bit more Death Guard green, which we will need, of course, because we're painting so much Death Guard. And you also get a medium layer brush, which is great. It's very much needed because the starter brushes are probably falling apart by now. And then issue 32 we get our Primaris Apothecary. So this is one model I don't have at the moment, so I'm very much looking forward to it. And I'm hoping that the sprue comes with the weapon option as well as the head option, because here you got your heavy bolt pistol, but you can also have I can't remember what it's called, but it's a medical gun for retracting bits and pieces. So the Primaris Apothecary war gear and the rules as well, and of course that's why we got the Celestial Grey now, so we can paint this chap up. So sweet. Thank you for joining me. I'll try to keep each issue review under 10 minutes, so the whole video does seem long, but if you think about it, they're quite short videos individually. It's all done and out the way. Do expect all the painting, building and tactical videos to come shortly. I'm going to be very, very busy getting everything painted up and stuff. And also don't forget and spread the love of this channel. I've got all my social media links in the description below. There are some other social media links in there for groups to join if you haven't already. And I'm going to do a subscriber giveaway soon, so make sure that you are subscribed so that you will be included in the draw, and I will post a video soon on the details on that. So without further ado, I'll see you next time.